Hey everyone, this is Fabio and welcome back. I am in Bristol, actually, visiting my brother after I spent like the last 4 or 5 days in the middle of nowhere in Aberystwyth, Wales, for work reasons. So I'm very late on my gaming, on my everything, but of course, real life always takes precedence over my hobbies. So I wanted to do this video in like almost a week now, since this is going to be a game discussion video on the latest game that I beat, which I cannot show to you, of course, since it's not with me, but that's not a problem. And the game in question is Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair, the sequel to Trigger Happy Havoc, the first Danganronpa game, brought to us on the PS Vita by Spike Chunsoft. And the interesting thing for me with these games is that before playing Danganronpa, Trigger Happy Havoc, I really wasn't that interested in this kind of games. I mean, visual novels are always been there. I always been like slightly curious about them, but they're never been like a priority. And I would like to add, there still aren't in a way. But now, especially after these two games, Danganronpa is the exception to the rule, you might say. I mean, I absolutely love this second chapter of this crazy series. I cannot wait to play the third one. I think it's going to be released in the fall or something. And in the meanwhile, I'm surely going to play that spin-off, Ultra Despair something. Ultra Despair Girls, I think it's the name. Even though I know it's very different, but it's still a Danganronpa game. I love this world and this setting, so definitely going to sink my teeth into this series as much as I can, because I absolutely loved it. But as I said, before Danganronpa, I was really like not that interested. Like I never played 999, Virtual Last Reward, the Ace Attorney series, even though now I'm very, very interested into them because of the whole trials, and considering like that Danganronpa in Danganronpa trials are a very prominent part, so it's really scratching that itch that Danganronpa kinda awoken in me. But or also like other series very well regarded, such as Steins Gate, or so you get the gist here. I mean, visual novels up until now is like, nah, whatever, maybe I'll play them sometime in the future. And then I played Danganronpa and Trigger Happy Havoc, and I absolutely loved it. I loved that game. And of course I wanted to play the second, and I absolutely loved it. So now I don't know if now I can already call myself a visual novel fan. I prefer to call me like a Danganronpa fan first, and slightly more interest into visual novels. But let's go with order. What's the story of Goodbye Despair? It takes place sometime after the events of the first Danganronpa. You're introduced to a new cast of characters, so a new cast of students who are transported into this tropical island by a new character, this new mascot called, let's use a real name, Monomi. It's this sort of like rabbit-looking thing who's basically saying that they are on a school trip, and the whole point of this is to make friends and have fun. Naturally, after 2 minutes or something, that our favorite evil mascot, Monokuma, that's bastard, hilarious, I love Monokuma, sort of teddy bear, returns, and of course because of him the whole school trip is transformed once again into this sort of killing game, which the only chance for survival is basically kill or get killed. So, and it's whenever a murder happens, it's your duty to investigate on who did it and collecting clues and information in order to prepare for the trials, which are, I think, the highlight of the game, and then trying to investigate by talking with the other characters and reasoning like after the collection of the various clues and discover the culprit of each murder. So that's the basic of Danganronpa 2, which is basically the same of the first one. Nothing has changed, just some slight alterations here and there on the only gameplay parts of the game, which are the trials. Since during the trials there are various mini-games, which just gives, I think, a bit more rhythm to the game, because for the most part, since this is a visual novel, you go around the island exploring and for the most part talking to these characters, trying to understand like what the hell is going on to this place, which is very, very weird. Even though I have to say, in terms of setting, I kind of still prefer the first Danganronpa. I really, really liked that really creepy school in the first game. But the island has its charms. I mean, it's very weird. At times it's even a bit creepy. But the idea of the school, it's more claustrophobic in a way, and it really gave me that feeling that I cannot get out of this building. While on the island, it is true that it's also a sort of feeling of a desert island, so you cannot escape from the island. But it's not the same, I think. I still like this island. I still like the setting of Goodbye Despair very much, but slightly prefer the school of the first game. So basically you go around, explore the island, find anything interesting. I don't want to say anything weird, because everything is weird in these games. And as I said, like forming bonds with these characters, as the closer you are with these characters, you can also be rewarded with additional skills that you can use during the trials, which are very useful. For example, they increase the times during like debates and stuff like that. So there is a lot of incentive to talk with these characters, and it's worth it because you can explore more about them and forming bonds and discover like their past and stuff like that, which is also good in terms of character development, and I love like good interaction between characters. And I really like this cast of characters, I have to say. It was very varied. There were some very weird characters, just like as you expect from a Danganronpa game. There were hilarious ones. Some of them were really funny. There was that one, the big guy, Nekomaru, I think was called, who was always talking about shit. It was hilarious. Of course, like poop jokes or stuff like that always works, I think. And seeing him like screaming, yelling all about taking poop and stuff like that was kind of funny in a way, very silly, but it's a very silly universe in a way. But you can also, but all of a sudden, then you can there's a murder, so that the game takes this very steep turns into becoming very serious, and sometimes like you discover like dark secrets about certain characters, or very creepy stuff about the world even, or the island, or everything. So, and this is not really a spoiler in a way, because I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen, but let me just say that the final chapter in this game was crazy. It was like, I really didn't expect the game to go into that direction. It was great, I think. Really good, a really good twist, I'll say, because overall, in terms of story, which is of course the meat and potato of these games, it's a good storyline. In terms of story, I think, slightly prefer the first, so Trigger Happy Havoc, over this, because to me, the first game had an amazing twist by the hand. I really didn't expect that coming. Neither with this one. I mean, the twist at the final chapter, it's really unexpected, really weird, crazy, in a good sense. I'm saying crazy, but just like with everything's going on, it's really weird. But I think I still prefer the big twist in the first game. But with all saints, I mean, I really enjoy this, especially because I love the story and the characters in here. It's a good way to progress the story of Danganronpa, and with all those things happening, I mean, it's a good way to it's a good way to understand like what's it's actually going on the island and with these characters and everything. But it's really unexpected. That was really good. And I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with the third game, because I mean, with the way the game ended, I'm really thinking like, what's going to happen now? I mean, the sky is kind of the limit, because this is such a bizarre and full of unexpected kind of world. But I cannot wait to play the third one. As I said, in terms of gameplay, there's not much to tell. It's basically the same thing as the first game. So you go around, talk with characters, explore the islands, and all of a sudden there is the murder, and you have to take part to the trials, which, just like in the first game, they are very long. They can easily take up to like 1 hour or something like that. They're really long, they're really intense. And just like with Trigger Happy Havoc, I usually, since of course during the day I don't have much time to play games, I always play during the night, like after dinner. And of course, like, it's kind of like 1 a.m. when a trial starts. And of course, I cannot stop the game there, since it's the best part in the game. So I keep going, and finally managed to conclude the trial by like 10 to 3 a.m. So I was like exhausted. Because you also have like to think a lot during these trials, because I have to say the logic, sometimes it's a bit, let's just say, is a bit questionable here and there. So I was there like sure of a decision, like during a debate or something, and the game just insisted that it wasn't right. So it's like, what the hell? So I was forced to do something that I don't like with Danganronpa, as it's to look a walkthrough, and they say that the correct answer was something that to me didn't make much sense. But it's not like this all the time, just here and there. But you kind of notice, and it's kind of like, what? It doesn't make much sense, but whatever. So, and I have to say, on certain occasions, contrary to the first game, some of these cases were investigations were very complex in a way. Like, for the most of the time, I wasn't able to guess who the culprit was. Like in Danganronpa 1, for the most part, I kind of did, like, through reasoning and thinking about it while I was doing my investigations. But in here, some of these cases was really interesting and messy, but in a good way. Like, I remember one. Basically, like, it's the middle of the game or something, if I remember right, which was extremely complicated, I think. At least, like, especially because it's like the whole dynamic of the murder was so weird that I had no idea. So I was at the trial and I was like, okay. When sometimes they ask you, like, select who you think is the culprit, I was like, I have no idea. I don't know what to do. So yeah. But I love this game. I mean, I really enjoy, as I said, I love the trials, but I also really like the investigation part, like when you're examining the crime scene, or going around taking, like, talking with these characters to have a better understanding of the situation, and thinking of all of this while you're waiting for the trial. I love all of that part. It's the kind of like where the game actually shines. But with all this said, I really think that it's worth playing this game, also just for exploring this really weird, over the top and insane universe, which I think it's great. I just love the Danganronpa universe more and more, I have to say. I really like it from the first game, but now that it's getting, like, bigger and it's expanding, this whole concept of, like, hope and despair, I just love it. I mean, now I'm also starting, like, I barely have the time, but also trying to watch the anime, since there are plenty of Danganronpa animes actually. There's an animated version of the first game, and there is this huge anime like Danganronpa 3, which it's divided into 3 different arcs, like Despair, Future, and Hope, or something like that. I still need to remember the correct order, but it's a lot of watching. And then there's the side game, and then there's the third game coming. I mean, it's getting this universe is getting huge. But the more I'm into that, the more I'm liking it, because it's so weird. Plus, oh, there's something in my eye. It's such a weird but over the top universe. Like, for example, I love the characters in general, all the students. I love the concept of like the ultimates. I really like the idea of these really skilled students, but in one specific talent. For example, there's the ultimate gymnastic, there's the ultimate cook, there can be like the ultimate bully, the ultimate slacker, whatever. There's an ultimate for everything, and it's interesting to explore and talk with this character to make sense of this really weird universe. So I really, really, really cannot recommend this game enough. I mean, if you like the first game, you probably played Goodbye Despair already. But if you haven't, I highly recommend it, because for the simple reason, like, if you played Trigger Happy Havoc and like it, this is the same thing. It's just a different cast of characters and a sort of new story continuation, but the gameplay is the same. So it's just like fitting with like trying a new glove, but it's also the same glove, if you know what I mean. So very familiar characters, gameplay extremely familiar, but new characters, new setting. But it's connected, so it's a good way to continue from the first game, because in my opinion it ended on a double cliffhanger, which it's now properly explained to me, of course. But once I finished Trigger Happy Havoc, I couldn't wait to continue the story, because what's going to happen once they leave the academy? A bit of a spoiler. What's like when you see that Monokuma is still alive? A bit of a spoiler again, but the game is very old by this point, so it doesn't matter. Shame on you if you haven't played Trigger Happy Havoc. It's amazing. Let's briefly talk about the music, of course. Don't forget about that, because I love the soundtrack of these Danganronpa games. I mean, the first one was great and memorable already, but this second one, it's even better, I think, because it takes all the great soundtrack and tracks from the first game and adds new ones, of course, since it's a new game. But all the familiar tunes from the first game, like there's one that it's very sad and melancholic in a way. Others, are very more like adventuring almost in a way while you're exploring the islands. Other are more tense, so they're perfect for when you're having an investigation or for a creepy moment. So the soundtrack is really good. I really enjoy the Danganronpa music, and they really fit the moment, because there are like all kinds of very funny moments, really creepy ones. There are some which are, there is a moment which is very sad in a game, especially at one point. There is a very, very sad moment which I didn't expect to be that moved. I mean, it's a video game after all, but by this, like, you'll get so attached to these characters that you really want them to survive. You really want to help them and to understand their reasons and everything. So you get really close to them in a way. So I think that could be it, because I don't want to get too much into the story. I already get some small spoilers here and there, but really irrelevant stuff, I have to say. And I was really vague, I think. And also in terms of gameplay, there's not much to say. I mean, especially if you play the first Danganronpa, it's basically the same. They just add something during the trials. So if you're familiar with the first one, you basically already played the second one in terms of gameplay. But honestly, guys, I cannot recommend this game enough. Buy it, support Spike Chunsoft so we can get more Danganronpa. But I think overall it's a big success. I mean, there's a lot of Danganronpa out there. But I'll definitely keep playing these games. I cannot wait to try the spin-off, because it's going to be weird. I know that, but I'm probably going to love it, even though it looks a bit weird. But cannot wait. So I think that could be it on Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair, a fantastic, fantastic visual novel, a great sequel to an already amazing game, and well worth your time, as it's a great story, really interesting characters, and such a great setting. I love the universe. That's one of the things that I love the most about this game. It's this crazy, very anime-ish universe. That's something that only in Japan can actually deliver, I think, and that's why I love it. So that's it for Danganronpa 2. A huge recommendation for the whole series if you haven't played before. If you have played just the first one and not the second one for whatever reason, just play it, because it's a lot of fun. It's can be very tense, can be very sad, can be very weird. Everything you expect from Danganronpa. So that's it for me. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Like always, I'll see you next time, and take care.